I was standing in my kitchen early that morning, fixing myself a cup of coffee, when I heard the garbage disposal running. Normally, that would not have caught my attention. But the clock on the microwave said 6:30 in the morning, and my daughter-in-law was not supposed to be awake for at least another hour. Then I heard a sound that made my stomach drop. It was the sharp crack of ceramic hitting the spinning metal blades of the disposal. I hurried over to the sink and flipped the switch. The grinding stopped with a heavy, choking noise. I grabbed a flashlight from the drawer and leaned over the sink to look down the drain. Inside, I saw pieces of white porcelain mixed together with coffee grounds and eggshells. But these were not just random pieces of a broken cup. I recognized the pattern right away. Tiny hand-painted roses. My chest tightened. That meant only one thing. My daughter-in-law had just destroyed Linda's favorite coffee mug. The same mug my wife had bought during our 25th wedding anniversary trip to Maine. Linda had used that mug every single morning for the last 8 years of her life. She loved it so much that she washed it by hand every day. She refused to put it in the dishwasher because she worried the painted roses might fade. And now it was nothing but shattered pieces sitting inside my garbage disposal. My name is Thomas Walker. I am 58 years old, a retired insurance claims adjuster. And that was the morning I finally realized something was very wrong inside my own house. Because it was not an accident. My daughter-in-law had been slowly wiping away every trace of my wife's memory. And that coffee mug was just the latest thing to disappear. "Oh, Thomas." I turned around and saw my daughter-in-law standing in the doorway. She was wearing her bathrobe and that worried little expression she had perfected over the past 8 months. "I am so sorry," she said quickly. "I was cleaning up and that old mug slipped right out of my hands. You know how clumsy I can be in the mornings." Old mug. That was how Nicole described it. Linda had treasured that cup like it was something special. She treated it with care every single day. And Nicole called it an old mug. "I know it meant something to you," she continued in that soft, reasonable voice she always used. "And I feel awful about it. But Thomas, you have so many coffee mugs. Maybe it is time to start using some of the newer ones." She tilted her head a little and gave me a gentle smile. "Linda would not want you holding on to every little thing forever." There it was again. That tone. Calm. Logical. Patient. Nicole always used that voice when she wanted me to feel like I was the unreasonable one. Over the past 8 months, I had heard it more times than I could count. Nicole Carter was 32 years old. She had been married to my son Ryan for 3 years. And she had been living in my house ever since she lost her marketing coordinator job in Chicago. What was supposed to be a temporary stay had slowly turned into something else entirely. Something that made me feel like a visitor inside the home my wife and I had built together. But to explain how things got this way, I need to go back a little. My wife Linda died 5 years ago after fighting ovarian cancer for 2 long years. Those last months were the hardest thing I have ever lived through. But even when the pain got worse and the medication made her confused, Linda still found a way to smile when I walked into the room. One night near the end, she squeezed my hand and looked straight at me. "Thomas," she said quietly, "do not just exist after I am gone. Promise me you will live." I promised her I would. But after 30 years of marriage, life without Linda felt like trying to breathe underwater. Every part of the house reminded me of her. The way she arranged the furniture in the living room, the stack of books on her side of the bed, the garden outside that she had spent decades building. My son Ryan, my only child, lived in Chicago with Nicole. He called every few weeks, came to visit during holidays, and sent pictures of their life together. Nicole always seemed pleasant enough. She was polite, educated, always remembered to ask how my health was doing. But Linda once said something about her that stuck in my mind. During one of their visits, Linda leaned over to me and whispered quietly, "She watches everything, Thomas. It is like she is studying our lives. Like she is making notes." I should have listened more carefully. Linda had always been good at reading people. 8 months ago, Ryan called sounding stressed. Nicole had been laid off from her marketing job. They were having trouble paying rent on their apartment in Chicago. The small technology startup where Ryan worked in information technology support was also struggling. He asked if they could stay with me for a few months while they figured things out. What father would say no? I had a 4-bedroom house that felt empty ever since Linda passed away. Ryan needed help, and Nicole did too. So I told them of course they could stay. That decision changed everything. At first, the changes Nicole made around the house seemed small and perfectly reasonable. She suggested updating the wireless internet password so it would be more secure. She reorganized the kitchen because she said the layout was inefficient for cooking meals for the whole family. She moved some of Linda's gardening supplies out of the garage so Ryan and Nicole would have space for their belongings. Every time she explained one of these changes, it sounded logical. Nicole had a way of presenting everything like it was an obvious improvement, something any sensible person would agree with. And she always said she was doing it to help me. "Thomas, you should not have to deal with all these household details," she would say kindly. "Let me handle the optimization so you can enjoy retirement." By the second month, Nicole had taken control of most things in the house. She set up online banking for me because paper statements were not environmentally friendly. She changed my pharmacy to one that supposedly offered better discounts for seniors. She even convinced me to switch cable companies because the new provider had more educational programming. Ryan supported every decision. Whenever I mentioned feeling overwhelmed by all the changes, he would shrug and say, "Dad, Nicole is just trying to help. She is great at organizing things." That is basically what she did in marketing. But by the third month, I started noticing things that did not feel right. My mail stopped coming directly to me. When I asked about it, Nicole said she had arranged mail forwarding so she could manage my correspondence more efficiently. My monthly bank statements stopped arriving in the mailbox. Nicole told me she had converted everything to digital records to reduce clutter. She promised we would review the accounts together every month. But somehow those monthly reviews never happened. When old friends called the house, Nicole often answered, "Thomas is resting right now," she would say politely. "Can I have him call you back?" But most of the time she never passed along the messages. When I asked later, she would say she forgot or that the call was not important. Little by little, without raising her voice or causing a fight, Nicole was cutting me off from the outside world. And she always had such calm, reasonable explanations that I started wondering if maybe I was just imagining things. But the morning she destroyed Linda's coffee mug, everything finally became clear. Nicole was not simply organizing the house. She was removing Linda from it, piece by piece. And I had been letting it happen. That afternoon, I did something I had not done in months. I walked upstairs to the master bedroom and opened Linda's jewelry box. Nicole had suggested several times that I should donate Linda's personal belongings to help other families. But I always refused. This was one thing she had not managed to reorganize away from me. Inside the jewelry box, beneath Linda's pearl necklace, I noticed a small key I had almost forgotten about. It was the key to our safe deposit box at Community First Bank. Linda had insisted we keep important documents there, along with some emergency cash. "You never know when you might need something the bank cannot access quickly," she used to say. I had not visited that safe deposit box since we were arranging Linda's funeral. Maybe it was time. The next morning, while Nicole was out at a job interview and Ryan was working his remote information technology job from his room, I drove over to Community First Bank. The branch manager, Maria Delgado, had known Linda and me for about 15 years. When she saw me walk in, she smiled warmly. "Thomas, it has been too long. How have you been holding up?" "I am managing," I said. "I need to access my safe deposit box. I have not opened it since Linda passed away." Her expression softened. "Of course. Let me get the paperwork ready." Inside the safe deposit box, I found everything Linda had promised would be there. The original deed to our house, clearly showing the property belonged solely to me. Our marriage certificate, Linda's will, insurance policies, and $8,000 in cash that Nicole knew nothing about. But there was something else. A small envelope with my name written on it in Linda's careful handwriting. Inside was a letter dated 6 months before she died. "My dearest Thomas, if you are reading this, then I am gone. And you are probably having a harder time than you are willing to admit. I know you very well, and I know you will try to handle everything by yourself. Please do not. Some people will try to take advantage of the life we built together. When people see a widower living alone, they sometimes think they are looking at an easy target." Reading those words made my hands shake. I sat there alone in that quiet little bank room and cried. Linda had known. Somehow she understood that trouble might come into my life after she was gone. When I returned home later that day, Nicole and Ryan were sitting together in the living room, talking quietly. They stopped when I walked through the door. Dad, Ryan said carefully, Nicole and I have been talking about your situation. We think it might be time to consider making some changes. Nicole gave him a supportive look and then turned toward me with that same calm voice she always used. Thomas, we have been noticing how difficult it is for you to manage this big house by yourself. The yard work, the maintenance, all the financial responsibilities. She paused and folded her hands together. We really think you might be happier in a retirement community. My blood ran cold, but I kept my face calm. Nicole continued smoothly. I have been researching some really wonderful places. There is one called Sunset Manor that has an excellent reputation. They handle all the day-to-day responsibilities, Nicole continued, flipping open a neat folder in front of me. Meals are prepared for you. There are social events, exercise classes, gardening groups. You would not have to worry about anything. She slid several glossy brochures across the table toward me. I looked down at the pictures. Smiling older couples playing cards. People walking along tidy garden paths. Groups of gray-haired men and women sitting together in bright dining rooms. Everything looked pleasant, clean, almost too perfect. How much does it cost? I asked. Nicole answered without hesitation. The entrance fee is $25,000. After that, it is $4,800 per month. She said it smoothly, like she had practiced the sentence. But here is the good part, she added. You could sell this house and easily cover those costs for years. This property is worth at least $340,000. After paying the entrance fee and setting aside money for the monthly expenses, you would still have a large amount left for emergencies. I did the numbers in my head. $4,800 every month came out to $57,600 a year. Even if the house sold for $340,000, that money would disappear fast. 5 years, maybe 6 if I was careful. And after that, what would happen to the money that is left over? I asked. Ryan leaned forward before Nicole could answer. Nicole has been studying financial planning lately, he said. She could help manage your investments. Make sure everything lasts as long as possible. There it was. I would sell my house, move into a care facility, pay thousands every month until my money ran dry, while Nicole managed whatever was left. Eventually, I would depend on them for everything. I need some time to think about it, I said quietly. Of course, Nicole replied with a pleasant smile. But Thomas, do not wait too long. The best retirement communities usually have waiting lists. We should at least reserve your spot. That night, I could not sleep. Instead, I went down to my workshop in the basement. It was the only room in the entire house that Nicole had not reorganized. My tools were still exactly where Linda had helped me place them 10 years earlier. The wooden workbench still had old coffee ring stains from the mornings Linda would bring me a cup while I worked on small weekend projects. I sat down and pulled out a yellow legal pad. Then I started writing. Every change Nicole had made since she moved in. Every account she had helped me set up. Every service she had switched. Every friend who had slowly stopped calling. Every letter that never reached my hands. After working 30 years in the insurance business, you develop a certain instinct. You learn how to recognize patterns. You learn the difference between coincidence and a carefully built scheme. What I was looking at was not random. It was a plan. Nicole was not helping me organize my life. She was taking control of it. And the next morning, I decided I was done sitting quietly. I was going to push back. The first thing I did the next morning was call an old friend of mine. His name was Robert Hayes. Robert had spent 25 years as the chief legal counsel for the insurance company where I worked. If anyone understood how financial fraud cases were built, it was him. Thomas, he said when he answered the phone. It has been a long time. How is retirement treating you? Robert, I said, I need your help. I believe my daughter-in-law is trying to take my house and my savings. There was a long pause. That is a serious accusation, he said carefully. What makes you believe that? So I told him everything. The slow takeover of my finances. The control over my mail. The retirement home plan. Nicole's offered to manage whatever money remained. Robert listened without interrupting. When I finished, he sighed. Thomas, what you are describing sounds a lot like elder financial abuse. In this state, that is a felony. But accusations alone are not enough. We need real proof. Documents. Records. Evidence. How do I get that? I asked. Carefully, he said. Very carefully. And everything must be done legally. Can you meet me at my office tomorrow afternoon? Nicole thinks I have a doctor appointment tomorrow, I said. So yes, I can come. Good, Robert said. Bring anything you can find. That afternoon, while Nicole was out buying groceries, I started looking for answers. I approached it the same way I handled investigations during my insurance career. Step by step. Document everything. The first place I checked was my computer. Months earlier, Nicole had helped me set up online banking. She had changed the passwords herself, saying it was important to keep things secure. But she had made one mistake. She left a password hint. It referenced Ryan's birthday. After 30 years of investigating fraud cases, I knew one thing very well. People almost always use important dates as passwords. Ryan's birthday worked. Within seconds, I was inside the account. And what I saw made my stomach twist. My checking account balance showed $12,400. That number was wrong. Based on my own records and memory, it should have been closer to $28,000. I printed out statements from the past 8 months. The transfers told the story. At first, the withdrawals were small. $500, $300, each one labeled as household expenses or family costs. But then the numbers got bigger. $2,200 for home improvements, $1,800 for emergency repairs, $3,400 for family medical expenses. I had never approved any of those charges. I had never even heard about them. Next, I checked my retirement account. The login information was still saved in the browser history. Nicole had clearly been accessing it. The balance showed $43,200. According to my own records, that account should have held around $67,000. More than $23,000 had disappeared over the last 6 months. Each withdrawal was labeled as a hardship distribution for a supposed family emergency. I printed everything. Bank records, transfer details, withdrawal authorizations. Some of the forms even carried signatures that looked like mine, but they were not quite right. The angle was different. The pressure of the pen looked wrong. Someone had tried to copy my signature. Then I did something that made me feel uneasy, but I needed the truth. While both Ryan and Nicole were out that afternoon, I quietly walked into their bedroom. Inside Nicole's dresser, underneath a stack of folded clothes, I found a thick manila folder. A label on the front read, Financial Planning. Inside were copies of my bank statements, printouts of my retirement account information, and something that made the back of my neck go cold. Applications for power of attorney. Legal paperwork that would give Nicole full control over my finances. According to the documents, I was supposedly experiencing mild cognitive decline and required assistance managing my financial affairs. There were also property transfer forms, papers designed to add Nicole's name to the deed of my house for estate planning purposes. Under those papers were brochures for 3 different retirement communities. Nicole had written notes in the margins about entrance fees and monthly costs. At the very bottom of the folder was a small notebook filled with Nicole's handwritten calculations. She estimated the house value at $340,000. Monthly retirement home expenses at $4,800. She had carefully calculated exactly how long my money would last and what would remain after it was gone. According to her notes, after selling the house and paying for 4 to 5 years of care, about $80,000 would remain. Next to that number she had written, K and an emergency fund. Ryan and Nicole's emergency fund. Money created by selling my home and draining my retirement account. I photographed every single page with my phone. Then I placed the folder back exactly where I found it. That evening at dinner, Nicole made an announcement. I scheduled a tour of Sunset Manor next week, she said casually. Just so we can see what it is like. No pressure. Ryan nodded enthusiastically. Dad, I think you will like it. Nicole says they even have a woodworking workshop where residents can build projects. I looked at him. How would Nicole know what I like? I asked. She has never asked me what I want. Ryan frowned. She is just trying to help, Dad. We both are. Are you? I said slowly. Because it feels like you are trying to get rid of me. For just a moment, Nicole's calm expression cracked. Her voice sharpened slightly. That is not fair, Thomas. We gave up our life in Chicago so we could take care of you. We are trying to keep you safe and comfortable. I never asked you to give up your life in Chicago, I replied. You did not have to ask, she said. That is what family does. But the way she said the word family told me something important. She did not see me as family. To her, I was a situation, a problem, a collection of assets. After they went upstairs for the night, I returned to my workshop. I organized everything I had gathered. Bank records showing withdrawals I never approved. Retirement account statements. Photographs of power of attorney forms. Property transfer documents I had never seen before. I also wrote down every conversation I could remember with Nicole. Her suggestions about donating Linda's belongings. Her insistence on controlling my mail. Her habit of answering my phone calls. Her quiet takeover of every corner of my life. In the insurance business, you learn something about fraud. No matter how careful people think they are, they always leave a trail. They write things down. They create records. They build the very evidence that will later expose them. Nicole had been extremely careless. The next afternoon, I met Robert Hayes at his law office. He studied the documents I had brought with a serious expression. Bank statements, retirement records, photographs of the unauthorized paperwork, my detailed timeline of events. He spread everything across the conference table like pieces of a complicated puzzle. Robert Hayes slowly reviewed the documents I had brought him. Bank statements, retirement account records, photographs of the paperwork Nicole had hidden in her dresser. My handwritten timeline showing exactly how everything had happened over the past 8 months. He spread the pages across the conference table like pieces of evidence in a courtroom. Finally, he leaned back in his chair and looked at me. "Thomas," he said, "this is a textbook example of elder financial abuse." I stayed quiet while he continued. "You have gradual isolation from friends, unauthorized access to financial accounts, and documents with signatures that appear to be forged. In this state, that is a Class B felony. If the authorities prove it, we are talking about serious prison time." I swallowed and asked the question that had been bothering me the most. "What about Ryan? Is he legally involved in this?" Robert studied the papers again. "From what I can see here, your son might not fully understand what Nicole has been doing. The power of attorney applications only show Nicole as the person requesting authority. Ryan's name does not appear anywhere on those forms." He folded his hands together. "But we need to be careful. Once we start this process, things will move quickly. There is no easy way to turn back after that." "I cannot let her destroy my life," I said quietly. "But I also do not want to ruin my son's future." Robert nodded. "Then we handle this intelligently. We create a situation where Nicole reveals her intentions clearly, and we document everything." He paused before asking one more question. "Are you willing to wear a recording device?" 2 days later, I was sitting in my living room with a small digital recorder taped inside the pocket of my shirt. Nicole had arranged for someone from Sunset Manor to visit the house for what she called an informal consultation. The representative who arrived introduced herself as Mrs. Deborah Langley. She looked to be in her early 50s and seemed like a genuinely kind woman who believed in helping older people. Nicole immediately positioned herself beside me like she was my caretaker. Whenever Mrs. Langley asked me something directly, Nicole tried to answer first. "Mr. Walker," Mrs. Langley said kindly, "what interests you the most about possibly moving into a retirement community?" Before I could open my mouth, Nicole spoke. "Thomas has been struggling with managing this large house," she said. "Have you not, Thomas? The yard work, the financial paperwork, remembering appointments and medications." "I do not take any medications," I said calmly. "And I manage my finances just fine." Nicole laughed softly like I had made a harmless mistake. "Thomas, you have been getting confused about your accounts lately. Remember last week when you could not find your bank statements? I had to help you locate everything." Mrs. Langley looked at me with a sympathetic expression. "That happens to many people as they get older," she said gently. "Financial matters can start to feel overwhelming." "Actually," I replied, "I would like to review my financial situation with you right now." Then I turned toward Nicole. "Could you please bring me my most recent bank statements?" Nicole hesitated for a moment. "Of course," she said finally. "But Thomas, we already reviewed all of that. Your savings are perfectly adequate for Sunset Manor." "I would still like to see the numbers," I said. Nicole left the room and returned with a folder. She placed several printed pages on the table. According to those papers, my checking account balance was $28,000 and my retirement account held 67,000. I looked over at Mrs. Langley. Would you mind giving us a few minutes alone? I asked politely. I need to speak privately with my daughter-in-law. She nodded and stepped outside onto the front porch. The moment the door closed, I reached under the sofa cushion beside me and pulled out the real statements I had printed the day before. Nicole, I said, these numbers do not match the balances in my actual accounts. Her face lost color. What do you mean? My checking account has $12,400, I said slowly. Not $28,000. My retirement account has $43,200. Not $67,000. I looked directly into her eyes. Where did the missing money go? Thomas, you are confused, she said quickly. Those must be old statements. These statements are from yesterday, I replied, and they show withdrawals that I never approved. Nicole's voice became sharper. You did approve them. We talked about every expense. The home repairs, the family emergencies, the medical costs. What medical costs? I asked. What emergencies? Show me receipts for these repairs. You cannot expect me to keep every receipt from 8 months of household expenses, she snapped. That was when I quietly pulled my phone from my pocket and started recording as well. Nicole, I said calmly, I need you to explain how $23,800 disappeared from my accounts. For a few seconds, she just stared at me. Then something inside her snapped. Thomas, you do not understand how expensive it has been for Ryan and me to take care of you, she said angrily. We gave up our careers. We left our entire life in Chicago. That money went toward supporting this house and making sure you were safe. By taking money from me without permission? I asked. It is not stealing, she insisted. It is family contribution. She crossed her arms. And once you move into Sunset Manor and we sell this house, there will be plenty of money for everyone. Everyone, I repeated. You will have your care covered, she said. And Ryan and I will finally have something to rebuild our lives with. It is fair. It is practical. I ended the recording and looked at her for a long moment. She had just admitted everything. The theft, the manipulation, the entire plan. Just then, Mrs. Langley knocked gently on the door. Is everything all right in there? Yes, ma'am, I called out. But I will not be needing Sunset Manor services after all. Thank you for coming. After she left, I turned back toward Nicole. You have 24 hours to pack your things and leave my house, I said. You cannot do that, she protested. We live here. No, I said firmly. You are guests who have stayed far too long. Ryan came home 2 hours later and found Nicole upstairs throwing clothes into suitcases. What is happening? He asked. I sat him down at the kitchen table and showed him everything. The bank records, the forged documents, the photographs, and finally the recording of Nicole admitting the truth. I watched my son's face while he listened. The shock hit him slowly. Dad, he said, his voice shaking, I did not know. I swear I did not know about the money. I believe you, I told him. But now you need to decide what you are going to do about your marriage. Nicole tried to convince him that I was confused. She said everything she did had been legal and necessary. But the evidence was impossible to ignore. Ryan was not a foolish man. The next morning they packed their car and left. Nicole did not say a word to me as she walked out the door. Ryan hugged me before he went. His eyes were full of tears. I will call you soon, he promised. Later that afternoon, I filed a police report. Robert Hayes handled the legal side of the case. Nicole was arrested 3 days later at her sister's house in Milwaukee. Eventually, she accepted a plea agreement. 18 months in county jail, 3 years of probation, and full repayment of the money she had taken. Ryan filed for divorce while she was waiting for sentencing. That was 8 months ago. Ryan and I talk twice a week now. He moved back to Illinois, found a better job, and recently started seeing someone new. According to him, she is the kind of person who listens instead of trying to rearrange his entire life. As for me, I still live in the house Linda and I built together. Her favorite coffee mug is gone, but I still have hundreds of memories that nobody can grind up in a garbage disposal. And I learned something important through all of this. Sometimes protecting your family means protecting them from each other. If something feels wrong in your own home, trust that feeling. Write things down. Keep records. Talk to people who knew you long before the trouble started. Your house is yours. Your money is yours. Your life is yours. Do not let anyone convince you otherwise, no matter how calm or reasonable they sound. because the truth has a way of coming out eventually. And sometimes the strongest revenge is not anger. Sometimes it is simply standing up, exposing the truth, and refusing to let anyone take away the life you worked so hard to build.